My name is Steve Bloom and I'm the Director of Wits Business School, and we'll be discussing the 2016 World Economic Forum Africa session. The session, as you would know, was hosted in Kigali in Rwanda from the 11th to the 13th of May under the theme of connecting Africa's resources through digital transformation. First, we'd like to welcome the Honourable Minister Jeff Radebi, Minister in the Presidency. I'd like to welcome a good friend of ours, Yuvan Naidu. Yuvan is Boston Consulting Group Partner and Managing Director by day and a Wits Business School Executive in Residence by night. I'd like to introduce Adam Ikdal. Adam is Senior Partner and Manager Director of BCG South Africa.
Hopefully we can bring some of the insights that we got from Kigali. This year around 1,200 participants from 70 different countries participated, around 25% from public sector. And South Africa had a proud representation of 250 participants this year, so quite a forceful delegation. First of all, I was mightily impressed by just being in Rwanda. It's actually a very fascinating history, of course, from 20 years ago. We all know what happened to where they are today, with fantastic, I would say, infrastructure and progress on many arenas, without actually having the access to natural resources that like many of its neighbors. So I think the way that they have gone from talk to action is something that can be studied as a very interesting case study for many other countries in the region. If you look at the fundamental megatrends on the continent, there's no denying the fact that the continent is probably going to be the most exciting region in the world going forward. And there was a strong sense that this talk shop it cannot just be a place where people come together and talk. Now we're fed up. The continent needs real action, and we really need to see some real progress happening on the continent. So please, appealing to public sector to come together with private sector, together with labor and also civil society to forge out new solutions for the continent. So a real, I would say, sense of urgency.
Kigali, the city of 1,000 hills, has almost immediately earned a very remarkable accolade as the Africa's cleanest city. On the last Saturday of each month, people across the length and breadth of Rwanda commit themselves to time to projects that are aimed at the country's public spaces. A business person lauded President Kagame when he praised Rwanda and said it took 4 hours to register a company in Rwanda. However, President Kagame strongly interjected and corrected the business person quite firmly that it takes 3 hours. That's Rwanda. It is estimated that by year 2020, 250 million Africans will be between the ages of 15 and 24. The challenge, therefore, is not only to create jobs fast enough to keep pace with this population growth, but also to equip our young people with skills to join productive force.
I think what I also expected was to see if we progressed on issues that we looked at last year, in 2015, in South Africa. A number of speakers said that we can talk about the 20-year horizon, the 30-year horizons. There's a lot we can do now. It takes commitment, and it takes leadership and accountability, and we can do it.
I'm sure that a lot of you are aware that the higher education system has been under a bit of pressure. In this area of skills development in STEM area, those critical skills that the humanities and the creative teachers should not be neglected as well. We need to make good of the last 300 years of technological lack of progress in 20 years.
To really harness the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution, we need a significant transformation in the development of skills. In the STEMs area, but also in the IT area. Africa can make a quantum leap and really catch up. And I guess Rwanda is an example where you can actually start, exceeding almost the level of performance of some of your historical competitors.
We need to build partnerships, visa regulations. I mean, it's easier for me as a researcher to go to Switzerland where I work at CERN than to go to Nigeria. You know, half my output is with European collaborators and there are many bright Africans who have returned from MIT, located on the African continent, who are stuck because there's no intra-African trade or no intra-African collaboration. That is a political issue that I leave to the minister to tackle. Then we
I was part of a discussion on ethics in business, government, civil society. Okay, one of the ministers from Rwanda said, how do we deal with corruption? Well, lead by example, implement, and let the punishment be way out of proportion to the benefit. That's it. It's not rocket science. We can do it. There's no reason why it should take us 6, 7, 8 months to license a business. We need to show leadership across the board. Let me start with business. Business has got to begin to understand that if we don't put on the table what we're going to do and how we're going to do business to create employment, to address poverty, to address inequality, in 20 years' time we're not doing business. Okay? Business and labor have got to have a different type of compact so that we are building an inclusive economy and we are achieving inclusive growth. Students, you've got to be robust, you've got to protest, you've got to put the issues on the table. But your singleness of purpose has got to be, you've got to get into university and come out of these universities with the skills for the economy that's going to be driven by the fourth industrial revolution. That's what it's got to be about. And if we don't get that right, believe me, not in a few years' time, at this point in time, we are the laggards on this continent. And that's my personal frustration. It's not our failures. It's the lost opportunities because we're not getting things right.
I'm Robin Whittaker. I'm with an organisation called Partners for Possibility. I'm deeply concerned not to hear a mention of what measures are to be taken for business to support basic education. Our country currently is first amongst the auditing, first in the auditing sector. It is amongst the top 3 in the business sector worldwide, but we are 140 out of 140 in our basic education.
Hi, my name is Akana. My question is actually a build-up to your question as well. I mean, if we are world performers in certain categories, however, we're failing in the education system, how do we incorporate that into the strategy of inclusive growth?
I contact a lot of my members, the banks, just to understand what they're doing in education. And the amount of money each bank puts into basic education is unbelievable. Whether that's been effective or not is a different story. So I think the question we've got to ask is why aren't we having an impact? We have some of the top science institutions in the world. But somewhere along the line we're just not getting things right. And I think it's because we make things too complicated, too complex.
I wanted to provide some insight what was discussed at the World Economic Forum. Very briefly, this issue of basic education is absolutely fundamental to those discussions. And it's interesting how the different regions respond. So one of the things that emerges is the role of reading, and parents just reading in terms of the basics. You have to segment in which there is a fragment of society that really needs to be picked up, and that's a big topic. But basic stuff of the ecosystem that exists for the little that we have. I think there's an important point of the efficacy of the budget that we spend. It is noted as one of the largest on the continent. I want to quote some of the work by Ntuli Nube, who used to be chief economist of the ADB, who found that nutrition was a very important element of children attending school.
My name is Sharda Naidu. I'm a development economist doing research on women's economic empowerment in a few different countries. The rationale for women and girls getting educated is not just about having equal access. That actually, when mothers are less educated, their children's health suffers, their children's education suffers. The children of educated mothers study for longer, they perform better at school. When women's wages, when women get unequal wages in an economy, there was one study that was done on Kenya, and it was actually established that the growth rates of Kenya would have been 6% higher if women had equal. Similarly, when women have unequal access to business resources, the growth rates of countries actually suffer. My question is to the Minister that we have a national development plan. What we don't have is a national implementation plan. I would like the Minister to announce a date.
The NDP is being implemented. Every quarter, we provide report to government about how far we are implementing the NDP, the program of action that arises out of those performance reports are posted on the website of the DPME. Back to education. It is true that we spend a lot of money as a percentage of our national budget on education is the apex of our priorities. But I think the challenge is the quality of the spending. And one of the things that I think we need to emphasize is what we call the early childhood development, ECD. This fourth industrial revolution is upon us. Emerging technologies breakthrough, covering artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics, autonomous vehicles, 3D printing. So if we fear this, we are going to be falling behind like the first, second, and third revolution. So my appeal, what I take from Kigali, is that let's be prepared as South Africans about this fourth industrial revolution. All policymakers, government, business, labor, let's sit together and see how we can be participant in this great revolution that is determining the future of mankind. Even this Uber thing, we can see MEC for transport. Sorry, comrade. Assaulted. So that's what Professor Vilas is talking about. This industrial revolution comes with disruption. Figuratively and literally. Because a new way of doing things, regulators are put aside. It's between worker and the workplace. So this is the reality that we have to contend with.
There's a simple equation. Trust equals speed. The greater the trust between African countries for intra-Africa trade, the greater the trust between business and government, the faster we can make decisions. And so, forums that encourage that dialogue, that collaboration, as we heard from the leaders here, it's something we should nurture, and particularly at the next WEF, drive that.